Welcome back, everybody. And it's another episode of Crazy, Weird, Morbid Facts. Hello, I'm Brent, and this is Strange Embers.
So I have a few strange facts from different genres to kind of go through tonight. Let's start off with the first one, which is exploding head syndrome. You have any idea what that would be?
I've heard of it before, but I don't remember exactly what it is.
It's a rare neurological condition where people experience vivid auditory hallucinations of loud bangs in their head just as they are attempting to fall asleep or upon awakening. So it's characterized by, sudden loud and frightening sensations of an explosion or bang in the head during the transition from wakefulness to sleep or vice versa. They can also experience some flashes of light that usually only last brief seconds to minutes, but it can cause intense fear, anxiety, or insomnia. So the exact cause of exploding head syndrome is unknown, but thought to be related to abnormal brain activity during the sleep-wake cycles. And it can be brought on by stress, sleep deprivation, seizures, or inner ear disorders. And treatment usually consists of stress management, regular sleep schedule, which is, avoiding caffeine, having a set time to go to bed. It's like a sleep ritual. And sometimes even prescription medications. But I'd never really heard of the exploding head syndrome, so that was an interesting fact for me.
Almost sounds like it's kind of like a type of autoimmune disorder in a way.
In a way. There's another syndrome that is very closely related that I have experienced, musical ear syndrome. So this is a condition where involuntary auditory hallucinations in the form of music occurs. It is not fun at all, characterized by hearing music that is not present. So this music can be a pleasant tone to an intrusive tone that actually disrupts your day or your life or your sleep. You never know when it's going to occur. It can be a continuous music or just intermittent, so it comes and goes. Also, you experience dizziness and tinnitus, which is ringing in the ears along with it. The cause is unknown, but it is related to hearing loss, brain damage, age, or from certain medications. So the treatment or management of this condition is hearing aids that can amplify sounds to compensate for hearing loss. So it's thought to be brought on by your actually brain trying to fill in those gaps of being able to hear. I have unilateral or one-sided hearing loss. So my brain tries to compensate on that deaf side to fill in noises or tones. So it used to only do ringing, but now I have a lovely music accompaniment at times.
So your other ear keeps singing, "Never Gonna Give You Up."
Yep, never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down. So yeah, that's, it goes away, but it comes and goes, especially if I'm really tired or haven't really gotten a lot of sleep or been around a whole lot of sounds, and then it goes away to quietness. It's then just, I'm going to keep you awake playing this all night long.
So I have tinnitus.
Yep, that's the ringing, which the musical ear can go along with that. So.
And there's good days with tinnitus. People that have it know exactly what I'm talking about. But there's good days and there's bad days.
Yes, I know.
And on bad days, I can hear, I know it's there.
Oh, yeah.
I can hear it. It's loud. It's stuff like that. But on normal days, it's still there.
It's still there. It's just not as noticeable.
It's just normal. That's baseline.
Yeah.
So my wife thinks it's hilarious because we don't really watch a whole lot of TV, but our TV in the living room, I will turn it on and mute it.
Yeah.
It's just like ambient light. She turns it on for sound. So if she ever comes in there, she's like, "Why do you have?" She turns the sound back on. She's like, "Why do you have that?" She's always saying, "I don't even know how you do that. How can you stand it being quiet like that? Because you have tinnitus and you can hear." I don't know. I guess that's one of those things you
kind of accustomed. You get accustomed to it.
it's been there for so long. It's just like,
it's part of you.
yeah,
You don't really think about it.
yeah.
So I did get hearing aids, which I am not good at wearing and have got to wear them. But that is one thing that is supposed to help with it. So I've been saying I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it just to see if it actually does get rid of the music part. I was used to the tinnitus. I've had it since I was a teenager. But the music's been new. So that's a new thing. But they say sound therapy to desensitize, the auditory system. Sometimes there are certain tones of music that help it not be so noticeable, or to kind of dampen it down a little bit. But just like the tinnitus, it's always there. It's just if it's going to be loud and roaring or just kind of a quiet buzz. But yeah,
If I had hearing aids and it was music playing, it would be, for me, if I ever heard it, then I would be questioning myself, is it something playing in my hearing aid? Or is that what I'm hearing?
Is that what I'm hearing? Where's it at? Can you hear this too?
Yeah.
Oh, I ask all the time, do you hear that sound?
Yeah.
Something to be like buzzing or something. Is that a real sound or am I just hearing it?
I'm like that with some high-pitched noises and stuff. I'll ask sometimes. I'll ask my wife, I'm like, is that me or do you hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I do all the time because it's just weird. Yep. So, like I said, symptoms could be mild to severe or even persistent. But it is quite annoying at times.
Depends on what song's playing.
Oh, I still haven't figured out exactly what song plays in my head. Sometimes it sounds like an almost 90s rock kind of ballad type thing. And sometimes it's actually just soothing music, which is weird. But you never know. You never know what you're going to get.
So it's different songs?
Different songs. It's never the same.
Lyrics or just music?
No, just music. I've never had lyrics. Just music.
That'd be interesting if you ever get lyrics.
Oh, yeah. Then I will be questioning my sanity.
Especially if it's a song you've never heard.
Yes.
And it's accurate.
And it's accurate, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those were two interesting ones to me. And here's another just odd one. Do you know that a cockroach can survive without its head?
And survive the nuclear blast.
So it's not going to survive that long.
It'll
but
starve to death.
It will, no, not starve. Well, starve, or it actually, because of fluids or water, so it actually dies from that. But it's because they have an open circulatory system and they breathe through holes in their body segment. So they're still able to breathe, but cannot eat or drink.
Kind of like a chicken?
I guess like a chicken. And you say,
I know chickens do the same. So there's a chicken. I have to look it up. It has a name. It's a celebrity chicken now.
Celebrity chicken?
They cut its head off.
And it's still alive?
It stayed alive. So then
Well, how do they feed it?
So then they were like, it's not dying. So they started feeding it through its hole in its neck, feeding it with a dropper. The chicken went on like it was like a freak show chicken or whatever.
Oh my gosh.
The chicken lived, I can't remember what it was, a year or 3 years or something like that.
Wow. With no head. Wow. Yeah. That's crazy. But yeah, so with that open circulatory system that the cockroaches have, they have a lower pressure than humans, so like a lower blood pressure type thing, which means that blood clots quickly after decapitation, forming a seal around the neck. So even though it's a headless cockroach, it can survive for weeks without food. They eventually die of thirst because they can't drink water. So another thing is, yes, cockroaches do have blood, but it's actually called hemolymph, which is it's typically like colorless because they don't have hemoglobin, which humans have to carry oxygen throughout their systems. So when they bleed, it appears to be clear or a creamy fluid rather than red blood.
You say that, but like, isn't anything that runs around have some type of blood?
Some type of fluid or something that keeps them alive. But yeah, I guess you just don't really think as much of insects having.
Because the only thing blood is a transportation system for oxygen, right?
So yeah, so theirs is just a little bit different. So they don't. It's going to transport their nutrients and all of that type of stuff, but they don't need it to carry their oxygen loads because they breathe through their body segments.
Just so you know, it was Mike the Headless Chicken.
Mike the Headless Chicken.
That lived for 18 months.
Wow, 18 months.
And he was accidentally beheaded by a farmer in Colorado, and then that's why he was...
That's why he fed him. Mm-hmm. Wow, that's crazy. That's an interesting one as well. So the next I went with are plants or flowers. So this one is actually called a corpse flower. Have you ever heard of the corpse flower?
I don't think I have.
So it emits a putrid smell similar to rotting flesh and death, which is used to attract pollinating insects. It is actually the largest and smelliest plant in the world.
The largest?
Largest. You need to look up a picture of it. It is really big. It only blooms every 7 to 9 years, and the bloom only lasts 24 to 36 hours. It's actually native to rainforest of western Sumatra, Indonesia. This is an endangered plant because there are only fewer than 1,000 left in the wild. And why they smell so bad is to attract pollinators to help ensure the continuation of the species. So their main pollinators are beetles, flesh flies, and carnivorous insects. Since they mainly eat dead flesh, the smell attracts these insects. So they go into the flower looking for their food. They realize there's nothing there. When they leave, it carries the pollen on their little legs.
On their little legs.
On their little legs.
Take my little leg. It's my strong one.
It's my strong leg. And it is the tallest flower that grows. It grows to around 8 feet tall. And their leaves are actually about 13 feet wide.
13 feet
13 feet wide. So they said, I think the tallest one was like 10 feet. It produces 400 orange to red colored fruit that are poisonous to humans, but they're consumed by the hornbill rhinoceros. So you'll have to post a picture of it. It's really a large, kind of majestic.
There's pictures of it on the screen.
Majestic plant to observe or to see. They have, I think they said there was one in Ohio, maybe. It was one of the botanical gardens. They have one there.
I think Cincinnati. There's a huge botanical gardens in Cincinnati. It had way back when there was a movie called Airborne.
Oh, that was
a rollerblade movie. They're in that one.
Oh, okay. But yeah, so they had like a big, huge thing whenever it blooms, since it's only, every 7 to 9 years. And the bloom only lasts that pretty much 1.5 days.
Anytime there's some kind of big, huge plant like this, one thing pops up in my mind immediately.
It's got to be Audrey 2.
Feed me, Seymour.
Audrey 2. That's the best ever carnivorous plant. Yeah, that was very interesting. I would like to be able to see that once, just to really get a grasp of its size.
I didn't know that. I always, whenever I say that feed me, I always want to say his name is Seymour. I didn't know his name was Audrey.
His name's Audrey too.
Why too?
Because Audrey was the girl in the movie. That was his girlfriend, Audrey.
Yeah.
And then he named the plant Audrey too.
Oh, okay. It's been so long since I've seen that.
And Seymour was the actual.
Seymour was the guy. That was him.
So leading off the plants, let's stay on that same subject and actually look at meat-eating plants. So there's one plant, it's called the tropical pitcher plant is Nepenthes. I'm not sure how you actually say its genus name. It can trap.
What's its name again?
It is the tropical pitcher plant. So it can trap and digest small animals. These plants feed typically on spiders, small frogs, mice, and also collect rainwater. So like a pitcher. So it trap the rainwater in its little tubule plant part. I don't know what to call it. And to draw in food. So this water will entice animals to drink from it. So when they crawl into then it gets stuck in the water and drowns. So it's thinking, hey, I'm going to get a little bit of water there, and it actually drowns. That water pool actually contains insect digesting enzymes. So then it dissolves or gets rid of the animal. The only part of the frog that the plant does not digest is the skin on the frog's feet.
On the feet.
On the feet.
That's very weird.
It's very specific.
Only the feet.
Only the feet.
Interesting. What does it do with that?
I guess it tips them out.
It's a plant. What is it going to do with it?
Just tip them out. I guess when you find one of those, it may be full of frog feet.
I guess so. Maybe so.
But some other carnivorous plants, the Venus flytrap, which is, commonly known.
Honorable mention.
Yep, an honorable mention there. And, the leaves of the Venus flytrap snap shut whenever anything passes over the tiny hairs, if they get brushed, and it just kind of springs its trap shut. There's also one called the cobra lily. This, bugs kind of go into it. They get confused because it has translucent windows in the plant's leaves. So they think they're escaping from the grasp of their captor, but they're actually flying deeper inside the plant. So it's almost like a little maze, and they get trapped in.
So it's attracting stuff like gnats or something.
Yeah.
Something small.
Something small, just kind of bugs. And there's also a big floating bladderwort. Now, these plants live in the water, and they trap tiny aquatic animals. And they have like cup-shaped leaves that they trap them inside of and consume. And then another one, just to mention, is the Australian sundew. So it has a water-soaked look to it, and thirsty bugs are drawn to what looks like raindrops on the plant's leaves. But the water is actually a glue, sticky-like substance that traps the insects. So you think you're going in for a nice drink and your food. Now, another interesting little tidbit are mummy fingerprints. Even though they're thousands of years old, a mummy can still retain identifiable fingerprints. I thought that was very interesting.
Really?
Since
if it's got skin.
If it has skin, if it's not just bones. So fingerprints are one of the few parts of the body that does not change much over time. So in 2005, researchers found fingerprints on the inner lid of an Egyptian coffin. And these prints were pretty much left by the craftsmen who touched the lid before, like putting them in the tomb and all. And they coat the lids, and they've probably touched it before the lid was dry, so it embedded their fingerprint on it forever. But during mummification actually dries out the soft tissue, so to obtain a fingerprint, the finger must be rehydrated. And in order to do this, they use a solution to soften the tissue, but typically the digit on the hand must be removed, and then they soak it in the solution, and then they're able to, ink it and roll it and obtain the prints. They use this a lot too in forensics. Whenever they find corpses, they try to rehydrate the fingers and get fingerprints, so that way they can identify bodies.
Saying that reminded me also of With the vampire lore, a lot of that came about whenever they would exhume somebody for something, and they would find scratch marks.
Oh, yeah.
They would find stuff like that. But it was also, they would exhume somebody and their fingernails were longer and their hair was longer.
Now, your hair and fingernails do not actually still grow after death.
Correct.
It's because of the shrinking of the tissue. So the tissues are shrinking and moving around, and it makes it actually look as if the fingernails are growing and the hair's growing.
But back then,
they didn't know.
Before they know that,
Yeah,
then
they didn't know
thought
this.
that it was growing. So then
They're still alive.
Yep, they assumed that they're still alive.
And they'd stake them in the heart.
Yep. And that was a common practice. I don't remember where, but that was a common practice for a long time. Is when somebody died, like now they embalm people and everything else. When somebody died, yeah, they would stake them through the heart and bury them.
Oh, yeah. Make sure they didn't come back.
Yeah.
Exactly. A lot's come along since then, but just learning, the human body and what happens has made a huge difference. So, staying on that same vampire lore type thing, we're going to talk about blood rain, which doesn't have anything to do with vampires, but it led right into it. So, in some parts of the world, rain can actually appear red due to airborne algae, also sands from the desert. So, this can give the rain a blood appearance. So some of the causes can be from dust storms, like in the Sahara Desert. Winds carry red dust particles into the atmosphere. Particles mix with rain clouds, giving them a reddish hue when it rains. Also algae, which certain species of algae can produce red pigments that can be released into the water, and this can cause the rain to appear bloody as well. And also in some industrial heavy type areas. So industrial activities can release red pigments into the air, which can settle into rain, cause that rain or that red appearance in that rain. Now, in rare cases, this has only happened a few very scattered times. It can be caused of the presence of blood or biological materials in the atmosphere. But mostly these phenomenons are due to dust storms and to industrial sites. So near deserts or near those industrial sites. And these rainstorms or the blood rain has actually been reported in the UK, Spain, France, Italy, Australia, and India. In India, they had such a huge presence of the pigments that it was actually staining cars, houses, and clothes to a red color when the rainstorm came.
I was just about to say that too. Could you imagine being out, get caught in a rainstorm, you get a little wet? No, now instead of just you get a little wet, you're covered, stained red.
You're covered in blood.
Fun fact about blood.
Yes.
Alfred Hitchcock movie, Psycho.
Mm-hmm. One of my favorite ones.
That's the classic. The shower scene.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what the blood is in the shower scene?
It's chocolate syrup.
Chocolate syrup.
because it looked good on camera.
Black and white film, it had the same consistency of blood being washed down the drain on black and white film. It looked like blood.
Yeah. So it looked good on camera at that time.
Yep.
But that's very interesting.
I'm a huge Hitchcock fan.
Oh, I love Hitchcock as well. So this little tidbit fact is we're going to look into the human microbiome. So did you know that more than 90% of the cells in your body are not actually human cells, but are bacteria and other microorganisms? So the microbiome is a collection of all the microbes. So that's bacteria, that's fungi, that's viruses, and their genes that naturally live on and inside our bodies. We have about 100 trillion microbes that live in and on every person. And this is actually 1.3 times as many microbes than there are actual human cells in the body.
When I think about stuff like this, I can go off on a whole nother tangent. You already know that. I'm big about I can go on a tangent in a second. But when I think about that, always think about, I'm not going to say I'm a believer in aliens, but I want, what's the shirt say? I want to believe.
I want to
or whatever,
believe.
you know. So I think about things like that, and if you bring everything down to these little micro, you know, you got to look up under a microscope to see it. And when I think about stuff like that, I think about it in another way too, as in we're like, that means our body is like a whole nother galaxy for these little things running around.
Oh, yeah. Just on
So
a whole different
what
scale.
if we
Or
are
really,
like that little bacteria up under a microscope? That's us with whatever else is going on as well.
living something. We're actually living in an ant farm for someone else is
We're
looking
on
in on us.
we're on somebody's fingertip right now, somewhere else, and we think we're on here.
Yeah, we think we're our
Well,
own.
I mean, we are here, but
We're
it's
our own
there.
person.
Yeah.
We have our own city. We have our own.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is a neat way to think.
And then I think about the Rick and Morty episode where the battery's dead and he goes into the battery and it's a whole world inside there he created.
Oh, see, I've never watched Rick and Morty.
No, it just goes into this inception of worlds. It's hilarious.
So, oh yeah, that's very interesting. Just to think on that aspect of what all else could be out there and how much we don't know.
Right. I'm all about the conspiracies of aliens and space and all. It's so fascinating to me. I can talk about that stuff for days and days and days, but yeah.
So, also, all the microbes that we have are essential for regulating our bodies. They help us digest food, they help us fight disease, and each separate part of the body has its own unique microbiome in itself. So the nose, which is one of the easiest access points for a lot of harmful bacteria and viruses, they have their own microbiome that helps counteract these invaders by producing mucus. And the mouth and throat, they all have different microbes that live in various parts, the tongue, the teeth, the cheeks. Dental plaque is actually made up of bacteria, and the throat's microbes are similar to the mouth and nose. And by breathing in and out, the lungs have a typical same type of microbes that the mouth and throat do. But we want to try to keep as many microbes away from the lungs. The stomach has very few microbes. What do you think that is?
The acidity?
The acidity in it.
Yeah. Because the stomach lining replaces itself every 3 days.
Due to the low pH of the gastric acid, it's very hard for microbes to live here. There is one common microbe, that Heliobacteria, which is H. pylori, so it's Heliobacteria pylori. It lives in the stomach, and some kinds can actually cause irritations and contribute to stomach cancers. So some of our normal flora can actually be harmful as well. The large intestines has the most. So it's probably about at least 90% of all the microbes in the human body reside in our intestinal area. There's another interesting fact about that. If you combined the weight of all the gut microbacteria or microbia, it weighs about the same weight as the brain.
No kidding.
So that's a lot that's contained in the intestines. So our skin, which is our largest organ, has...
It's hard to think of it as that, but...
You don't think of it as an organ, but it actually is. It has a huge function. So it's our primary defense mechanism against pathogens. And another little fun fact about that is by swimming in the ocean, it can actually change your microbiome on your skin. So ocean water actually washes away the existing skin bacteria and deposits new bacteria present in the ocean water. So instead of your natural microbiome, you have marine microbiomes. And this can potentially leave you more susceptible to infections, depending on what type of bacteria is actually introduced. So anytime you're in the ocean water, as soon as you get back, you want to thoroughly wash with soap and water
to wash that off.
You got to wash it off. But yeah, so
salt water's full of anything and everything.
oh yeah, definitely. And that change in the microbiome is temporary. The skin will gradually return to its normal bacterial balance, but it does change it for a time being.
But I mean, if it's going to change, if you're going to get in the salt water and it's going to change, at least getting like some bioluminescence so you can be all glowy and
glowy, nice.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, how funny. And I wanted to talk a little bit about different sayings that come about through the ages. Do you have any idea where the saying piss poor comes from?
That one I do not. But it's going to have something to do with just knowing the way
what do
those
you think?
kind of words come out. It's going to be something to do with some poverty location and where they went to urinate. I don't know.
Just from word association. So poor families, poverty, would collect their urine, piss, and sell to tanners, hence piss poor. So tanners actually used urine to remove hairs from animal hides during the leathering or tanning process by soaking the skins in urine. So the ammonia in the urine helps loosen the hair follicles, allowing for easier scraping.
Yeah.
This actually started back in Roman times.
Oh, here we go with the Roman.
The Romans are all about some pee. And this is now like an outdated practice. They don't use this anymore. They have chemicals that are used to...
Well, I mean, drinking your urine was an outdated
That
practice,
was an
but they're
outdated
doing it again now, too.
So you never know.
You never know.
It could be brought back. And that's where piss poor came from. Now, what if you were poor, then poor, you were the poorest? That's where the saying, you didn't even have a pot to piss in.
Yep.
So you didn't even have a pot so you could pee to sell. But yeah, so.
Yep. So then you're stuck. You're throwing your profit. You peeing your profit out on the ground.
You're peeing your profit right on out.
Yep.
Yep. So one other little bonus fact for you. The cat's out of the bag. Where do you think that came from?
I don't know what that one is, but it's going to have something to do with they had cats in a bag taking it somewhere.
Doing something with a cat in a bag.
Yeah.
So this phrase actually came from the Middle Ages. Livestock salesmen would sell cats instead of pigs. They would have them bagged up. The buyer would then realize they've been swindled, and they would let the
Cat out of the bag.
Exactly. Da-da-da.
Yep.
Oh, so yeah, so that's it tonight for our strange and eerie list. So it ends here, but the darkness continues. So beware of what lurks in unseen corners. Thank you, and good evening.
I hope y'all enjoyed it. And until next time, good night.
And thirsty brugs.
Did you say thirsty brugs?
Bugs. Let's start that one over.